All right, I think we are ready to get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. My name is Ian Adams. I'm the Managing Director here at Evergreen Climate Innovations. You may also know us as Clean Energy Trust. We rebranded about 3 months ago, but we are really happy to be here today for the EnergyTech University Prize Explore event. This is the Great Lakes regional event. There are 11 different regional student business plan competitions happening here over last week and this week. I believe 3 others happening today. And this is the first year of this program, but Evergreen has been supporting energy innovation and students in the entrepreneurship space for a long time, and in the past have served as a node for the Department of Energy's previous program for student participants, the Clean Tech University Prize. If you're new to our organization, Evergreen Climate Innovations supports climate tech entrepreneurs in the greater Midwest region. So we're structured as a nonprofit, but operate a fund that invests in early stage entrepreneurs. This fund allows us to sit a little earlier and be patient with our capital and help these solutions come to market. We also provide a lot of programming to educate and support and empower climate tech entrepreneurs of all stripes, such as this student business fund competition. So let's get into things. We're here for the Explore event today. I want to share a little bit about the agenda. We are going to do some quick introductions. After I give my spiel, we're going to hear from the Chief Commercialization Officer, Vanessa Chan, on a video from the Department of Energy. Then we're going to hear from our judges who have joined us today to judge these business plans. And then we will get into the exciting part, the student pitches. After that, we're going to let our judges step away for a few minutes and discuss amongst themselves and deliberate and declare a winner. And the winner is going to be awarded a $2,500 cash prize. And we'll also go on to the national version of this event, which is going to be held in late March at the Carnegie Mellon University's Energy Week. So that would be an exciting event as well. There are also some other technology prizes that we may be handing out later today. So while the judges are away deliberating, we're going to hear from a member of Evergreen Climate Innovations investment team, my colleague Paul Seidler, on what companies should be thinking about as they look to fundraise and grow for their growth. All right, I think we are ready to hop into things. Let's hear from Vanessa.
Welcome to the inaugural EnergyTech University Prize Competition. I'm Vanessa Chan, the Director of the Office of Technology Transitions, or OTT for short, and also the Chief Commercialization Officer of the Department of Energy. As a sponsoring office of EnergyTech Up, I can say that all of us here at OTT are humbled by the fact that we have seen a huge surge of enthusiasm from student teams, colleges and universities, incubators, and energy industry organizations. In fact, with 180 total applications from 113 schools, our inaugural cadre of teams represent 42 states, plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. Not too shabby for a very first one. My thanks go out to my team at OTT, to the invaluable support we received from the National Renewable Energy Lab team, our partnering regional conveners, as well as the students themselves for their hard work. My vision for the goals and outcomes of this competition are: 1, to strengthen the energy innovation community across the US and territories; 2, to identify business opportunities for young entrepreneurs; and 3, to help lay a talent pipeline that will secure our energy future. We hope you all can take this opportunity to network and get to know the work going on in your region, because collaborators across schools catalyze future partnerships. Our mission at OTT is to help shepherd technologies through the research, development, demonstration, and deployment, or RD&D continuum, to ensure they are commercialized and brought to the market. You're about to hear several inspiring, innovative ideas to do just that. This is an exciting time to be a budding entrepreneur because a clean energy transition is upon us. It will be revolutionary for our world, and we need all hands on deck to make it happen. Today, you are all on deck to play a role as you think and work towards that future. The students of today are the innovators, scientists, marketing specialists, policymakers, and entrepreneurs that we need. So with that, good luck and may the best business plan win. But not to be too cheesy, you guys have all won by participating, because this is what we have to do to go hit our climate targets. Good luck.
Wonderful. Thanks to Dr. Chan for that introduction. So next we are going to be, or soon we'll be hearing from our 13 presentations. But before that, I wanted to give a quick rundown of the teams. I think we have a slide that lists that team order, just so folks have that. And then we are going to be moving over to introduce our judges. All right, so here's the order of these 13 pitches. We'll call them out as they go as well, but this should be an exciting set of presentations that we're looking forward to. Next, without further ado, I'd like to have our judges introduce themselves. We're really benefited from some great folks who are willing to join and participate in this event. So judges, feel free to turn on your cameras and microphones, and let's do a quick round of introductions. Catherine, do you want to start? And then we can do Catherine, Alan, Chanu, and Jordan.
Definitely. Hi, everyone. Really nice to have you. And thanks to the Evergreen team for having us as the judges. I'm Catherine Lien. I'm currently based out of DC, but I've spent the last 15 years close to Ian as his neighbor in the Chicagoland area. That's how we came to know each other. My firm is called GEF Capital. We invest in slightly later stage than where you guys are pitching today, EBITDA profitable businesses, but we focus on businesses tackling climate change and pollution mitigation technologies. That spans everything from clean energy, renewable fuels, to waste to value, environmental services, industrial and energy efficiency, kind of runs the gamut. I've been an investor for the last 10 or so years, all kind of at the intersection between sustainability and industrial technology. So looking forward to all the pitches today.
Thanks, Catherine. And hey, everyone, this is Alan Mellovitz. I work for Accenture. For those not familiar, it's a global consultancy. And as part of that organization, I'm in our utility strategy practice. So my career really started in grid modernization efforts with electric and gas utilities. And since then, really been focusing on implementing and designing clean energy transition programs, roadmaps, things around demand side management for really pivoting utilities to this next generation of technologies. And actually before that, I participated in a DOE sponsored competition in college called the Solar Decathlon. And that was really the intro to my interest in energy. And so I just am so excited for all the students here today, starting and really just piquing an interest in this industry, because I think it's arguably the most exciting time to really, get started in this new world that we're living in the clean energy transition. So welcome, and looking forward to hearing from all the 13 teams.
Hi, everyone. Going next here. My name is Shanu Matthew. I'm currently a vice president at Lazard Asset Management, an asset manager that manages roughly $270 billion across equity and fixed income strategies. I focus on sustainable investing and net zero research across the U.S. equity platform, so studying the decarbonization pathway of U.S.-based companies, and then also trying to identify secular themes or opportunities that are investable as a result of the transition to a net zero world. I'm super excited to be here and hear from all of you. I just want to commend everyone for even being a part of this process. I think it takes a lot of courage and effort to do so. So very much looking forward to it. And I'm sure as with all the judges, please reach out in the future if you have any questions or need help. But thanks for having me.
Hi, everyone. Jordan Leventhal. I'm also based in Chicago here. I work for Invenergy, which is the largest privately owned renewable energy developer in the US. So we develop projects across wind, solar, battery storage, electric transmission. And we also, we're expanding into new areas such as hydrogen storage, et cetera. So my background is I started at Deloitte Consulting in their strategy practice focused on sustainability consulting, been working in corporate strategy at Invenergy for the last 4 years and now lead the growth and innovation team working on launching new business segments into community solar, EV charging, and other areas. So thanks so much for having me to participate here. I think just to add on to what some of the others said, I think one of the biggest challenges that we're facing as an industry right now is just a supply of great talent to work on some of these really hard challenges. So it's really exciting to see so many folks in the university system that are interested in being part of the clean energy revolution. So looking forward to hearing your pitches.
Agreed. Thanks to all of you for participating. All right, we are ready to hop into the pitches now. So for each of these, I'm going to call the team up. The first one's going to be Natrion. So you can turn your video on when I call your team up and your microphone, and then get started. Each team's going to have 4 minutes to pitch, and then they'll have a minute of Q&A with the judges. All right, go ahead, Team Natrion.
Right, yeah, let me get my screen up here. Yeah, great to be here. Thank you all. My name is Alex Koskov, and I'm the founder and CEO of Natrion, calling in right now from the University of Illinois down here in Champaign, Illinois. And we're a battery startup that's developing highly scalable solid-state batteries for electric vehicles. So the automotive industry right now is on track to basically be selling at least 20 million electric vehicles per year by 2030. That's at least, emphasis on the at least. And to be commercially viable, these cars are going to need to be able to charge quickly and drive far enough on a single charge. And all of this can be achieved with these new batteries that are called solid-state batteries. They can do all of this from a technology standpoint, but they're quite simply not scalable enough to meet the needs of the auto industry right now. And it's specifically this problem that we're solving at Natrion. So what we're doing is a brand new solution that we're calling LISIC. So LISIC is a solid electrolyte membrane component, and we can basically drop this into existing lithium-ion batteries using the established battery production methods. And what this means is immediate and rapid implementation of this solution to produce solid-state batteries in the near term, and actually make this technology a reality for electric vehicles for the mass market. I'm gonna skip ahead here a bit. So we separate ourselves from the battery field in the sense that LISIC is a polymer ceramic composite. So really fundamentally at the material level, we're doing something that's different from all of our competitors, many of them who are pretty well known at this point. So guys like Solid Power and QuantumScape, publicly listed companies now, what they're doing are pure ceramic materials, which you get great performance, but you need a whole new process to make these batteries. So they're going to have to basically become cell manufacturers in their own right. It's going to take them years and years to develop the necessary infrastructure to meet the large scale needs of automotive. And at the same time, there are guys who are doing pure polymers, and the problem with polymers is just you don't get the performance that you need, even though that you can use the established battery production process. So we took this kind of middle ground where we are combining both materials to form this composite material where we have the high performance of a ceramic with the manufacturability of a polymer. And in that way, we can stay a lean and mean component supplier producing this material for the legacy battery cell manufacturers and getting this out there for the electric vehicles. So we achieve scalability, and we still deliver the promise of solid state. So we're improving the operating temperature range of batteries from -5 to 140 degrees to -55 to 500. So we're essentially eliminating fire risk at the battery cell level. This also means we can operate these batteries at higher voltages, which directly translates to an increase in energy density and driving range on a single charge to as much as 450 miles is what we're shooting for here. And then finally, by achieving cell level fire safety, we can get rid of safety systems at the battery pack level. And that means enormous cost efficiencies at the battery pack level for making these cars more affordable. So as far as commercial traction, we've had some tremendous traction to date, have started cell evaluations with 2 automotive companies, Renault and Hyundai. GM is kind of next on deck, and 24M, they're making batteries for Volkswagen. And then we kind of have some engagements with Rivian and Ford and Tesla to meet tech goals before we can start a cell evaluation with these guys. Underpinning all of our commercial traction is the work we do with the Department of Defense. So we've won two SBIRs so far. one with the Air Force, one with the Navy, and we're turning the Air Force one into a phase 2 with the Army Special Operations Command, and also are working with Raytheon on a phase 2 for the Navy one. So very, and this is, we get really great tech validation out of this that then directly translates to commercial work. So just
That's
looking
4 minutes, so if you want to wrap up.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, just looking ahead. So right now we're taking this technology from batch scale in the lab to full-size cell validation in the next year, hopefully launching in 2023. But yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. Judges, feel free to hop in and ask questions.
Any reason why you're only focused on EV applications versus other lithium-ion applications, like energy storage?
Yeah, great question. So EV is by far will be the largest market for, especially for these high performance targets that we can meet with this material. Energy storage will be a bit trickier because cost efficiency is more important there, and so we have to get up to economies of scale before we can really do anything meaningful in energy storage. Also, the actual scale of energy storage, but we are, for instance, in the DoD, most of our work is for unmanned aerial vehicles and aerospace applications. So that's a nice niche that we could target. That also has some commercial vectors that we could pursue later on.
Thanks.
Alex, is the plan to work or contract manufacture with existing battery manufacturers? You spent a lot of time talking about how it's essentially drop-in the manufacturing process. And if that's the case, I'm curious, are there any switching costs or any switching friction at all?
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, so we basically what we've done is engineer this material to replace a component that's already being used in batteries called the separator membrane. So this basically mimics the separator. So in that sense, it is really kind of this drop-in material. And so from a manufacturing sense, actually, we're getting rid of a step because usually manufacturers also have to add a component to the separator called the liquid electrolyte. We get rid of that. So in some sense, we actually simplify the process for them. And so it really just comes down to us being able to minimize our material costs if we want to get that cost parity for the manufacturers.
Thank you, Alex. We'll have to leave it there, but thank you, judges, for your questions as well. Thanks for that presentation. Next up, we have revolutionizing nuclear construction.
Great. Let me get my screen up and going. Let's see. All right. Hey, good afternoon. I'm Robbie Stewart. I'm a PhD student at MIT right now, and I have colleagues at the University of Michigan, Samuel Piper, and also at MIT, Christina. And we are revolutionizing the nuclear construction process with our innovative nuclear reactor called MITRE. So nuclear has a huge opportunity to help decarbonize, really enable the decarbonization of the industrial process heat market. This is a market that's 5 gigatons of CO2 annually and more than $100 billion a year. And specifically, I mean things like refineries, petrochemical processing, pulp and paper production, textiles, et cetera. The primary heat source in this market today is natural gas, coal, or biomass. And if we look in the European market, just the price of natural gas over the last couple of years, we can see a dramatic escalation, and recent events aren't helping. And nuclear power can really satisfy a couple of the major pain points for these customers when it comes to both their heat and their electricity supply. So these are things like long-term price stability. Uranium has very long-term price stability. Energy security, you can store a lot of it on site, so you can have years of guaranteed supply. Dispatchability, power when you need it, and then it's low carbon. There's no greenhouse gas emissions. But there's a problem in the nuclear industry today. If you look at the last maybe 10 plants built in the US and Europe, they are on average 2.5x over their original estimated budgets and 2.5x over their original forecasted schedules. And this is a major plague on the industry and one that needs to be solved. So what we've done with MITRE is we take sort of the state-of-the-art gas reactor structure, which has these two primary components in red and blue, and we integrate them into a single vessel, and we rotate the whole thing horizontally. And while that sounds maybe a little trivial, it has enormous payoff. So the building is now 90% smaller. It's also 80% shorter. We've eliminated wasted space. And the architecture of this building being a low, flat, long building means that the construction process is highly parallelizable. So you can construct it 3 times faster. The shorter building is also site adaptable. A major issue in nuclear today is that you actually can't put nuclear reactors anywhere you might want to. Obviously for human reasons, but also for the structure of the soil on the site, and the shorter building is a much more site adaptable structure. So MITRE enables the energy transition for coal states and heat customers. So just in the last couple of weeks, you've had 2 states either consider or actually repeal bans on nuclear construction, and these are high coal states. So this is Illinois recently considering a bill repealing a nuclear ban, and West Virginia passing a repeal of a ban. It's 30% of Illinois' electricity is coal, 88% of West Virginia's electricity is coal. And this is a huge opportunity because the steam from MITRE can directly be a drop-in replacement for what's happening at these coal plants. And that's not the case for all nuclear reactors. And we're super site adaptable. So really a drop-in power source for some of these sites. On the other side, for the process heat market, we're also the lowest levelized cost source of heat across low carbon sources, including the holy grail of hydrogen, which would be $2 per kilogram green hydrogen. So finally, our development and deployment timeline. Obviously in nuclear, this is a long game. We're playing taking a big shot here. Right now, we're funded by the Department of Energy with a grant funding several different institutions. We would like to raise a seed round later this year to fund de-risking key technology, follow that by a larger Series A round where we can actually prove our building is highly constructible. So do a full demonstration of the building in a non-nuclear setting. 2 years after that, an even bigger raise to go through the detailed design licensing process, as well as a second construction proof of concept of the reactor building. And then the goal is in 2030 to have our first commercial unit deployed. And then 2040 have 50 units deployed across the US, and then go global after that. So 2050, 200 units globally. Getting there, it's not something we can do on our own. We need heavy collaboration with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, as well as the current partners we have today for our Department of Energy grant. And so that is MITRE, a reliable dispatchable source of low carbon heat and power. Happy to take your questions.
Hi, Robbie. I have a quick one. So you mentioned some of the states repealing the ban on construction of nuclear plants. To my knowledge, most of them are around just like, I guess they're banning the construction due to a lack of waste disposal or what they deem sufficient waste disposal. Can you speak a little bit to that about your design? You mentioned the size, but how you handle that and why you think you can get past state legislatures on that issue?
Yeah. So there's, I would say, actually good innovation in waste disposal right now, as well as a couple of serious other startups taking the issue seriously. So there's one called Deep Isolation that thinks that they can do waste disposal almost on site for some plants. So I think there's a lot of good tech development in that front. I would say that waste disposal is not a cost limiting issue. If you talk to customers who are actually considering building nuclear plants, most of them, it's not the waste that stops them. It's the cost uncertainty. It's when I go to build it, is it going to cost $3,000 per kilowatt to build or $10,000 per kilowatt to build? And the industry's proven that they can't have a solid product on that front. So when we've talked to either people in oil and gas industry or utilities, that's their fear, not the waste problem.
We have time for one more question.
Can you speak to how you'd get through the NRC permitting process?
Yeah, it's a long process. So right now, the NRC, there's 2 strategies, either Part 50 or Part 52. They're exploring a 3rd strategy. They released the 3rd strategy for public comment last year. Everyone else in the industry said that they didn't like it, so they're completely reconsidering what they proposed. The current timeline is supposed to take 36 months to go through the NRC. You submit a site license. There's 2 options: a site and a construction license, or a combined license. The combined license has the benefit of you're guaranteed to be able to construct the plant and operate it when you get there. But it comes with risks because you have to do a lot more work up front as you go through it. In both cases, the review process is going to take 36 months. That's what the NRC says their response time is. They actually average longer, about 42 months. But the key is just getting sufficient detailed design and safety analysis information in their hands as quickly as possible.
All right, thanks, Robbie, for those answers and that presentation. Appreciate it. Next up, we have team 3, the Fast and the Curious.
Hi, let's get our screen up here. All right.
All right, good afternoon. We're the team The Fast and the Curious, starting with Atarva, Dhruv, here Janie, and me, Alex, and we're presenting the business plan on solid-state lithium batteries. So the ubiquitous lithium battery technology has proved insufficient to satisfy many of the world's current needs. No battery technology is currently able to operate above 200 degrees Celsius, limiting the scope for sensors in military and power generation. Also, innovation is inevitably limited because of the space that batteries take, and that's especially relevant in the medical sector, where implants must be as less invasive as possible. And the current range of electric vehicles, which depends heavily on battery capacity, is not enough for mass adoption. So we'll focus on the feasibility of solid-state batteries with lanthanum lithium tantalite electrolyte, a technology patented by Sandia National Lab. This tech improves upon liquid electrolyte and thin film batteries, which are the current dominant technologies. We intend to manufacture the solid electrolyte, which could also be sold to different battery manufacturers. The company can also license battery design, testing, and integration services, especially for the standalone electrolyte. Industrial partners like original equipment manufacturers will be interested in working with us. As seen before, solid-state batteries have a variety of applications, but our target is the EV market, which is estimated to grow to 155 billion in 2028. So battery demand is expected to grow exponentially during the last decade, and up to 80% corresponds to transportation demand exclusively for transportation sector. Also, luckily, the US has a lot of battery facilities, battery manufacturing facilities around. So with the right partnership, our technology could be quickly ramped up.
Compared to lithium-ion batteries, these batteries are 15 times more conductive and 2 times more energy dense, as it takes half as much raw product to manufacture solid-state batteries with the same capacity as a lithium-ion battery. We expect the price of manufacturing to roughly half once the company has reached its maturity stage. Currently, batteries make up for 33% of the total cost of an electric vehicle, and with our tech, we project that our battery can bring that statistic down to 17%. Our solid-state lithium battery design has clear advantages over that of lithium-ion batteries. It is more durable, it can operate at temperatures up to 200 degrees Celsius, and it is leak-free. These are 2 key advantages for gas electric hybrid vehicle users who run a sizable risk of collision-related fires, as lithium-ion may infiltrate the internal combustion engine in hybrids. Due to the increased energy density of the solid-state lithium battery, all electric vehicle users could have their driving range increased 2-fold and a charging time between trips decreased as well, allowing electric vehicle users to road trip more effectively with a solid-state battery. Oh, wait, go back. Another point is dendrite formation. Solid-state batteries form dendrites more slowly than lithium-ion batteries, enabling a longer life of the battery. And this will positively impact the energy transition as users transition to electric vehicles. We advise that our company initially targets the hybrid electric vehicle market, having a competitive advantage of increased safety. As hybrids have 2.25 times more fires than gas-powered cars per 100,000 sales, and fires burning lithium ion are extremely difficult to extinguish, solid-state batteries are great for replacing lithium batteries in hybrids, thus nearly nullifying the risk of accident-related fires in hybrids. So our measurable goal is to maintain a growth rate of 20% revenue each year after the company's startup in the hybrid market. We advise the company to use a forecasting system to better improve investment on the company's expansion as the company lives to its growth stage, and that's through AI. We want to see our batteries have competitive pricing by the year of 2035, well before the ban of gas-powered vehicles in major governments. To do so, we advise that targeted subsidies are established with electric vehicle manufacturers, and the company offer both our manufactured electrolyte for integration into other systems and our manufactured solid-state battery itself. Battery recycling is growing at a rate of 35% every year. So we are also suggesting a battery recycling program is established to strengthen the security of the supply of lithium metal and other raw materials. And this way, the company will support the achievement of the circular economy. With this business plan, we'd like to see the company reach maturity before the upcoming ban of gas-powered vehicles that use internal combustion engines, which major governments are passing in the next few decades. At that point of the
minutes, if you could wrap up.
Yeah. Let's see. To conclude, the electric vehicle battery demand is surely increasing, and we are confident that increased research and development for our electrolyte will enable our company to succeed as outlined. And we can take any
Thanks a lot.
questions.
Over to you, judges.
So what between now and 2035 allows for the economies of scale for that cost to come down as aggressively as you guys think it will?
Just increase R&D. We haven't gotten into too much of the tech of like what needs to go into the R&D. I think, yeah, just manufacturing expenses need to go down.
Sorry if you already mentioned this. Who do you think will be your first kind of demo or beta batch customers?
Okay, so as Toyota, Panasonic are already in a partnership, I think any Toyota competitors, maybe like Ford Motor Company, Chrysler, Honda, Chevrolet, Volkswagen, anyone interested in doing EV or hybrid business with us, we would love to work with them.
Also, this technology is highly scalable. So even before going to the EV sector, we can scale the batteries, starting with micro batteries for medical sensors and devices. Another sector which need not that high electric capacity for the batteries.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much. And let's move on to our next team. Our next team is going to be Team 4, Solarcon.
All right, sharing screen. All right, how do we? All right, so sorry, we're all three sitting together. So our company is Solarcon, and it's me, Kenny, Chloe, and then Katie.
So the main problems that we saw in the energy industry have to do with non-renewables, renewables, and efficiency. The energy industry has a growing demand each year to create new technologies that present more efficient results. And each form of energy presents their own problems, with some having a much larger impact than others. And solar energy in particular has adapted new technologies to create more efficient outcomes every year, but still presents industry problems. Our solar concentration technology will be developed to turn industry weaknesses into strengths.
All right, so talk about our market size. The figure to the right shows the consumption of energy in the US in 2020. The market size is broken down to 3 different categories based on its relative scale of each circle. As a solar energy company, our focus only lies in the growth of our serviceable operating market. We can see that solar energy is a $9 billion industry in the United States, and our company plans to grow that bubble. The reason I'm pointing this out is because solar is the fastest growing form of energy out of all other consumption techniques. If we move to the left figure, we can see that the expected compound annual growth rate for solar energy in the US is expected to grow 11% each year from 2021 to 2026. The opportunity for a large market share is there, but needs efficient advancements to obtain. In the upcoming years, Solarcon will contribute to the growth of the solar energy market. So to talk about our technology, the technology that we'll be working with is currently patented from a group of Navy engineers that work within the Department of Defense, or referred to as the DoD. This also allows our company to work directly with the Navy engineers and the government. In order to fund the company, we will be applying for DoD grants along with having access to federal labs. Once the product has been tested for optimal efficiency, it will then be manufactured and ready to be sold to the DoD and outright commercialized after that. Our product uses a concentrator cells and reflective devices to direct sunlight at a single wafer precursor. As many of you may know, PV or photovoltaic solar panels are only capable of capturing 20% and converting that to electrical energy. One thing that separates us from our competitors is our product uses a water system to cool down the concentration cells. The heated water can then be captured and stored as thermal energy. To show just how much more efficient we are, our product not only captures the traditional 20% of electrical energy, but also 50% of thermal energy, giving us a total of 70% efficiency.
The way our economic feasibility pans out is that our solar concentrators are less costly to manufacture and require 10 times less material than one PV solar panel. Our concentrators also capture energy more efficiently. Not only is our manufacturing process less costly and more efficient, but our partnership with the DoD builds our credibility, which will give us more traction when we hit non-military markets and allow us to capture large government contracts. As you can see in the chart in the left-hand corner, in 2019, the cost per watt was a little under $5, and the cost dropped to $2 in 2014, and again to $1 per watt in 2017. We believe our concentrators will allow for the cost to drop to anywhere between 60 and 30 cents per watt.
And then here we break up our impact with the 3 Ps, which include profit, planet, and people. So you can see at the bottom of our slide, 20 times equals 2,000% reduction. The 20 times represents the max output for our product, which equates to a 2,000% reduction in materials to be just as efficient as traditional PV solar panels. This 2,000% reduction acts as a domino effect that will impact the 3 Ps, which will create a successful venture for Solarcon.
And that's it.
Great, right at 4 minutes. Thank you very much. Judges, over to you.
So is your technology, is it using PV or is it like running a turbine? I wasn't clear on that.
So it's actually a concentration form where we use reflective devices to go directly at what is normally a PV, a concentrator. It's made out of wafer precursor. And so the sunlight is directed completely at that. And that it can capture a larger concentration, as mentioned down here, a larger concentration of up to 200 to 1,500 on average times of sunlight concentration.
Dissimilar to existing concentrated solar technologies out there like Bright Source and some other companies.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, what was your question though?
Is that similar or is that differentiated from groups like Bright Source and others?
So the thing that makes us different is they are individual kind of panels themselves. They're like 20 by 50 feet and they are lower to the ground. We actually have a picture of what it looks like. And so what this uses is we also have tubes going up and the concentrator is at the top, as you can see, and the reflective devices are at the bottom, reflecting that light directly at the wafer precursor. And so as it heats up, the cooling mechanism, the water that comes through will cool it down, as also capturing thermal energy as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Team Solarcon. We'll have to leave it there for time, but appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, judges, you can fill out your grading forms. And next up, you're going to have Team C2.
War is 90% information. Napoleon probably wasn't thinking of digital information when he said that, but those words couldn't be any truer in the modern age. The battlefield is no longer confined to the physical world, but it has crossed over to the digital realm with boundless risk and an infinite attack surface. Colonial Pipeline, Norsk Hydro, FACC, Merck. Cyber is no longer about stealing credit card information. Cyber just got physical. Now, existing cybersecurity products are like hiring security guards. They protect the data by enclosing it in several layers of the network. But as we've seen, networks can be breached and the raw data is defenseless. And that's exactly where our product, Covert Cognizance or C2, steps in. It enables the data to protect itself by secretly storing information on how the system should be operated. So what this means is that you have this intelligent system that can automatically detect intrusion, and it can just do this using the raw data. On not just that, it can completely ignore the attack and rely on its own information to guide itself. Right now, systems need to be taken offline in response to an attack. With C2, they can operate anonymously during the attack. And who needs this technology more than ever? The critical infrastructure of our nation.
Our product can begin to capture the $100 billion cybersecurity market using a beachhead strategy. We believe that a great start is the smart manufacturing industry, since they paid an average of $1.5 million per ransomware attack just last year. Now that's just the price of the ransomware. They also lost millions more in revenue due to system downtime and other downstream effects. Unlike many others that rely on the fear, uncertainty, and doubt associated with ransomware attacks to stoke demand to their products, the key differentiator for our business model is that we rely on the quantifiable metric of avoided downtime to price our product. At a price of $100,000 per plant per year, our product costs less than 5% of what just one ransomware attack per year would cost them. The ROI offered by C2 is extremely attractive, considering the increasing frequency of cyber attacks and the recent talks of tax credits for companies bolstering cybersecurity. Our initial business strategy is to build a plug-and-play firmware with C2 embedded. Then, using a bottom-up approach and assuming a moderate market share that accounts for potential competitors as well as time to adoption, we were able to calculate a total addressable market of $260 million within the next 10 years. Once we establish a footprint in the beachhead market, we would pursue a licensing agreement with hardware vendors that can allow for much greater market penetration in the long run. We can also scale our annual revenue even further by getting a foot in the door with utilities and the more conservative energy industry.
But moving beyond the business model, what really does this technology mean for our country? Rural electric cooperatives are some of the most underserved and vulnerable sectors when it comes to cybersecurity, yet they are critical to our nation. We believe that the compatibility of C2 with legacy systems will provide them with the protection that they deserve. For microgrid applications, advanced nuclear reactors with complex fuel cycles require digital twins to operate efficiently, which may easily fall into the wrong hands. C2 will accelerate their development and deployment by enabling automated operation of these technologies and safeguarding them from the most sophisticated threats affecting our nation. Thank you. And I can take any questions.
Cybersecurity budgets are increasingly competitive. And I guess, can you speak a little bit to the differentiation you may have against other competitors or claiming to do the same thing? Or to, what would the case be to the system that you make?
Yeah, so the key differentiator here, there are lots of other companies like Dragos is a big one, SCADAfence, and a lot of other companies. They all still focus on the IT network, where it's just the network that's protecting the data. But like in terms of technology, our product differentiates itself because we're just focusing on the data. So even if the network is gone, right now the system is down, right? But in our case, even if the networks are gone, like even if their security systems fail, we can continue to protect our data. So at the moment, there's nothing that's directly competing with us in this regard, and except for like data storage, which also this is much cheaper than storing all that data as a backup. However, in the future, that may not be the case, which is why we've just baked that assumption in when we calculated the penetration of the total addressable market.
Is your team focused on the software, the hardware side, or both?
So actually, we've developed the software already, and right now we're working on the hardware. So ideally, we want to make like a firmware. We want to embed it and sell it. However, in the future, like once we just get that footprint into the market, we would like to work with we would just like to license the software with other firms so that, we can get much greater market penetration. So maybe we would work with like Honeywell or, those kind of people, and, we can just adopt a licensing model.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you, Arvind, and thank you for your presentation. Heading on to our next one, we're going on to Team 6, Revolt Recycling.
All righty, we're going to get right into this. So, all righty, Jeff, you ready?
Yep.
Sounds good. Let's get started. Hello, my name is Krithik Ramesh, and my partners are Jeffrey Lee and Ana Maria Perez, and today we'll be pitching you Revolt Recycling. Our team is comprised of individuals who care not only about the technical, but also the financial stability of our contest. Now, getting into the business pitch and investment philosophy here, our company serves as a corporate consulting and contract firm for emergent electric vehicle companies. Specifically, we would be helping companies such as Rivian, Lucid Motors, and Waymo vertically integrate their battery development infrastructure and emphasize sustainability and economic viability. Our services include research and development consultancies catered to vehicle lines and manufacturing roadmaps for entire companies. So we would provide provide our IP on renewable contracts, which allows us to establish long-term relationships with these companies along with a source of revenue. Our investment philosophy is to invest in technology that underpins the entire electric vehicle market, such that our market share and motivations rely on the success of the EV space and sustainability as opposed to individual companies.
Now to sort of identify some of the technologies we'd be utilizing. Electric cars are often touted as a sustainable alternative to their gasoline-powered counterparts, but their batteries are financially and environmentally costly. New methods of recycling the materials in them need to be created if both the battery and EV market as a whole are to be sustained. This will only become more of a problem as more people adopt electric cars in the coming years. Enter the direct recycling process. It's both more financially and environmentally sustainable than the current recycling methods because it recovers the valuable rare earth metals in these batteries largely intact, without the need for long and complex processing.
Alrighty, now going into the market analysis in the current state of the EV market, we want to prove that there's industry proven and product market fit. Ford and GM already work with outside firms to reduce metal and miscellaneous materials from the EV manufacturing partners. AlixPartners, a leading automotive consulting firm, has stated that the single most lucrative investment is in battery process optimization. They also go further in this article, stating that 40% over the past year has grown and that lithium-ion batteries is worth the greater investment over solid-state batteries, as perfecting this existing technology is more lucrative in the short term and long term. The most sustainable research has already been done on direct recycling from the US Renewable Energy Laboratory, who have shown promising yield conducted on single cell tests. Now, we substantiate these claims with quantitative predictions of the market analysis using machine learning and Markowitz profiles. We use machine learning predictions to stratify against the entire battery market as long with the S&P 500. We expect to charge about a total of 22% of total development costs for a given climate for co-development of this technology, licensing and consultancy services, along with an estimated gain of 5% market share over the entire EV space for battery development over the next 8 years.
So none of the aforementioned efforts by private companies or the government that Krithik just talked about, however, focus on improving the recycling process itself. This is surprising because direct recycling has the potential to cater to all EV markets globally. Expected returns on market is in the range of 500 million to 1.5 billion USD based on our Monte Carlo simulations.
We now substantiate these claims by looking at the rate of return and estimated rate of return as proposed by AlixPartners, as well as our own simulations that show a year-on-year return expected somewhere between 50% and 200, as well as data points in massive changes between battery markets as stratified by major points and changes of stock prices. Now, economic viability.
Yeah, so to discuss the economic viability of our venture, we'll put some numbers to our claims about direct recycling's financial advantage. Research has shown that it is 100 to 175% more cost efficient than regular recycling methods, that it recovers 25% of the cobalt in a battery pack and can reduce the price of a battery pack by roughly 50%. Now, aside from the economic viability of our concept, we'll also elaborate on its practical and financial impacts. I mentioned before that direct recycling saves cobalt, but what's the importance of that? It turns out that rare earth metals are becoming increasingly scarce and consequently their prices are also increasing. Cobalt and lithium, the most integral parts of EV batteries, have grown in price over the last couple of years and are projected to continue to grow as the supply chain is further strained by increasing demand for batteries.
Alrighty,
That's
to round
4
us
minutes
out.
there, so if you could wrap up, great.
Yeah, alrighty, to round us out about rare earth metals, specifically, we cared about not only the social impacts, but also the financial and geopolitical impacts of our product. So cobalt mining, along with other natural resources, have been shown to have severe humanitarian violations, according to the US Geological Survey. Direct recycling reduces the need for new mining and alleviates humanitarian concerns, and also bolsters our new need for novel development of infrastructure for recycling batteries that is more lucrative over the next decade. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can go. I guess so. In this situation, are you compensated by the actual companies providing the recycling, or by the end, like companies that need for the batteries?
Great question. So the process is multifold. So specifically in the first part, we've actually talked to other battery engineers from large vehicle manufacturers, and we'd be co-developing this criteria with them. So we'd make money off of the licensing of our IP for direct recycling and how to develop out their manufacturing, comparable to whatever Tesla's able to do with their gigafactories.
So are there a spectrum of direct recycling technologies or companies that already exist? Okay, so you guys are essentially just a consulting layer to liaise with the EV manufacturers and connecting them to the underlying direct recycling processors?
It's a bit of both. So essentially, the direct recycling process is in its infancy. So being able to do some novel research in our own capacity and partner with these companies would be lucrative to us. And then also working directly with EV manufacturers provides two opportunities of financial incentivization.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for answering those questions and for that presentation. All right, next up, we've got Team 7, that is Earth Repair. Team Earth Repair, feel free to share your screen when you are ready.
Hi, welcome to Earth Repair, a direct air capture company that turns CO2 into a solid mineral while cleaning up the planet. We are a group from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and we are currently competing in the X Prize carbon removal competition. Our business model has two revenue streams: making and selling carbon credits and making and selling carbonated ash. Not all carbon credits are created equal. Some credits store CO2 permanently, while others do not. For example, the forest pictured is no longer capturing and sequestering CO2. Direct air capture, however, has the ability to store CO2 permanently, making it a higher value solution. According to the IPCC and Rodham Group, we need a compound annual growth rate of 36% from 2021 to 2050 if we are to meet our climate goals. So the world is way behind on our direct air capture capacity. You may be wondering, science says we need this, but is there a business case? Well, there is. Microsoft, Shopify, Stripe, Amazon, and LGT are just a few of the companies entering into long-term direct air capture agreements for these higher value carbon credits. However, consumers recognize the need for more of these permanent storage options. That's where we come in. Our technology has two components. First, we have a direct air capture unit that extracts CO2 from the air as it passes through our system. Then, that captured CO2 combines with our feedstock, coal ash, to create usable carbonated residue. Importantly, this entire process happens at ambient temperatures. Our feedstock, coal ash, is a waste product and can be found cheaply in landfills across the country. Sometimes coal ash is not stored properly in landfills and leaks into nearby soils and water streams, causing widespread damage. And since coal ash impoundments are largely near underserved communities, our technology has a large energy justice component. All we need for our technology is about 5 people per plant, water, energy, and our feedstock. Our solution has two sources of revenue. First, our product of high-value carbon credits, and second, our co-product of carbonated ash. Carbon credits are highly volatile, but we believe that we can sell ours for $200 to $400 per ton of CO2 due to the permanency of our solution. This number stems from what our main competitors are currently selling theirs for. Importantly, we have competitive advantages over Climeworks and carbon engineering. Here are a few. Our solution requires no heating, while Climeworks requires 2,200 kilowatt hours of heat per ton of CO2 captured. We also require just 22% of the power needs that Climeworks does. We have a lower CapEx cost compared to both competitors because we do not dig into the ground. We have marketable co-products, while carbon engineering uses their captured CO2 for enhanced oil recovery. We also will sell our carbonated ash because it is a supplementary sedimentitious material. The total market size for SCMs is around 1.67 gigatons per year, and we will look to infiltrate that market. Through primary calculations, we perceive that the cost to build and operate the plant will be around $250 per ton of CO2 captured. However, there will be more costs associated with commissioning this project. In conclusion, we are using waste to capture and permanently store carbon dioxide while making a pile of useful carbonated ash. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac.
Have you thought through, or I'm curious to hear more about how you think about siting of these plants as you optimize for water costs, energy costs, coal ash, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we need, for our CO2 capture solution, we need it to not happen in freezing temperatures. So we need to site our plant in non-freezing places. But the only other thing that we need is just to have a bunch of this coal ash available nearby. And we've obviously, like, the closer it is to the coal ash, the less expensive it's going to be because of less transportation costs of our feedstock. So those are the thoughts about siting.
Is your plan to be the implementer and operator of the plants, or basically license the technology?
Yeah, we plan to implement them and operate them.
Excellent. We will have to leave it there. Thank you so much for the presentation, Isaac. All right, that was Team 7 Earth Repair. We are just past the halfway point of our presentation, so we'll give a second for our judges to fill out their forms and welcome Team 8 to the virtual stage. That is Alpha Neural.
Thank you for that warm introduction. I am Kevin. And I'm Mason, and we are Alpha Noor. Many populations are limited by the availability of electrical power. Near populous areas, one can simply plug into the existing power grid. But in remote areas, or when that grid is compromised, the problem becomes less trivial. Ultimately, the problem being faced is that electricity needs to be supplied to meet an operations demand. It needs to be supplied easily and reliably, and needs to be supplied consistently wherever it is needed. We are leveraging proven advanced fission and highly safe heat pipe technologies, which are both fluidless and pumpless. Coordinating with Idaho National Laboratory's IP, we will implement this tech with very small modular nuclear reactors that can cater to remote populations and operations. Here's something to give you a sense of scale for the size of our product. We are targeting designs with Idaho National Laboratory that can safely and reliably be moved anywhere to deliver consistent power for the duration of our lease. Our reactor is resilient enough to handle all baseload energy needs in rural and remote locations as the primary source of power using these proven safe technologies, which we are working to license exclusively from Idaho National Laboratory. We at Alphanor are ecstatic to deliver our amazing product. We are passionate about nuclear science, and we are passionate about getting nuclear science to the frontiers of the energy market. Our technology affords flexibility of scale. We will construct a fleet of our advanced fission systems and lease them to our beachhead market of federal entities to limit regulatory restrictions by the NRC. The revenue we generate from these easier to fulfill contracts, which cost less money, increase our contribution margins to subsidize market penetration into these rural, remote markets. I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful co-founder, Mason.
Thank you, Kevin. So in terms of our beachhead market, the DoD invests an average of $4.3 billion in new energy investment projects annually. Furthermore, we've seen that the global microgrid market is projected to reach $50.2 billion and growing by 2026, a large portion of which is in the US. So this is not even to mention other markets in the civilian sector that we're targeting, such as mining operations, research facilities, desalination sites, disaster relief sites, and healthcare facilities. So furthermore, in the last few years, we've seen around $550 billion of clean energy investment from the Biden administration, a $40 million recent investment project by the DoD in small modular reactors, and $287 billion go into the DoD's Resilience and Conservation Investment Program. So while there are a handful of modular reactor companies that have cropped up in recent years, few others are as small and mobile as us. Our systems are very safe. They operate at low pressures with passive safety systems and use low enriched uranium. Furthermore, because we plan on licensing the design from a government lab and selling first to government entities, we face much lower regulatory barriers to entry. So how do we get here? First, we have already been accepted by Idaho National Laboratory and are working with them to confirm our design feasibility through their technical assistance program. Next, we plan to utilize INL and ANL's bench to market programs, as well as SBIR grants for $250,000 to $500,000 of non-dilutive funding to build our proof of concept in-house at INL. Lastly, we will seek out VC investment to build our first fleet. So our team is composed of myself, my brilliant co-founder, Kevin, a nuclear engineer from UIUC, and another economics student here at U of C. We're also working with advisors such as Lien Nelson and Thomas Moore, who together bring decades of experience in startups in the nuclear industry. So thank you everyone for listening, and we really love to take your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin and Mason. Over to you, judges.
How much does it cost to build one of the models?
Yes, so our unit economics that we're targeting beyond the fixed cost, the marginal cost of each additional reactor vessel will be on the scope of $100,000 to $1 million.
Okay. And second question, unrelated, for the smaller towns, rural areas where it sounds like you guys are kind of trying to target, are there going to be any local municipal approvals that are required to kind of be able to install your fleet in that area?
Yes, definitely. So we're currently talking with an advisor who's on the Hill, who's helping us navigate these relationships. But for sure, we will have to coordinate. We're looking now with Alaska Energy Authority as one example. And they do have a lot of interest in the area, but certainly their own regulations that are separate from different states. Thank you.
Wonderful. We'll have to leave it there, but thank you, Kevin and Mason, for your presentation. Again, that was Team Alpha Nerd. All right, next up, we have Team 9, Thermo Elephant Group. So when you're ready, you can share your screen and get started.
Hey, Alpha Nerd, you're gonna have to stop presenting.
Many apologies.
No problem. Okay. Hi, so my name is Jacob Blasny, and I'm a mechanical engineer at Rose-Hulman. I'll be presenting the TG 2.0. So there's a really major problem in the way that energy flows to the US economy. It's really inefficient, and over 2/3 of it is actually lost as waste heat. It's rejected. So by reclaiming some of that energy, you could have a huge impact on a ton of really important verticals, but we'll be focusing on, in the interest of time, on space-based solar power, because the technology that I'll be presenting today actually makes space-based solar feasible, which means we have a pretty fast return on investment and a really big societal impact. So the technology I've been talking about has been developed at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and it combines a heat pipe with a generator and essentially creates a miniaturized power plant. This allows this technology to collect heat from ultra compact sources and reroute that waste heat into some electrical energy and back into the original device. So you're effectively increasing the efficiency of that device. So when we were looking at a comparison with the competitive landscape, there's really two main differentiators: your ability to cool and extract heat, and then your ability to convert that heat into electricity. When it comes to heat extraction, we're maintaining like state-of-the-art best heat extraction ability. And then really when it comes to thermal electric conversion, we can convert electricity at a rate that's about 5 times higher than what the best Seebeck effect generators are able to do. So that has a really clear competitive advantage when it comes to servicing space-based solar power. There are really two main issues here. The first one is being able to cool the laser, and the next one is capturing the heat. Cooling the laser is critical to avoid meltdown. And just to let you know, that laser is what's actually beaming power that's been collected in space down to Earth. And as you can see, as the temperature increases, the efficiency of the laser, the power that it's able to output is a lot lower. And then capturing that heat provides that bonus that actually can just increase the efficiency of the whole system and allows you to downsize a lot of the components because you don't need as much inputs. So this gives you a ton of really exciting potential applications, like vaporizing space junk and sending energy from satellite to satellite, which has been, which the Department of Defense has actually been looking for in some recent STTRs. But really, we're going to focus on terrestrial power beaming because we think it's going to do the most to accelerate the transition to clean energy. That impact is really clear when you compare what we can do to the alternatives in remote communities. So for example, in Alaska, you have to currently like truck diesel, which puts the cost of that energy at about 5 times higher than what it costs in the continental United States. And we can turn it into essentially clean energy instead of diesel. That cost to actually do something like this and provide the cooling capability is about $5,000, with most of it going to IP licensing and the rest of it going toward actually manufacturing in a clean room. The most important thing to note is that these massive solar arrays are about $500 million, and 50% of it goes toward thermal management. And since we bring this technology from 0 to 1, we make it possible. We have a pretty nice profit margin. We'll be working with those those initial developers of the technology, and we really hope to partner and have Raytheon as our first customer. By iteratively improving, getting contracts from the DoD and the DOE, we think within a year we can work with Raytheon to start implementing it on a satellite. Thank you. Looking forward to your questions.
Thanks so much.
Can you speak to I think on one of the slides it said that it was a 10% experimental efficiency and theoretical is 60%. Can you speak to how you'd seek to improve that or get closer to the theoretical limit?
Yeah, so that theoretical limit is based off the Carnot efficiency. And so part of it is purely based off like the delta T. To actually improve it, I don't actually have the best answer for you. We're gonna have to continue working essentially in the clean room at Oak Ridge to get the heat pipe and generator system to, I guess, remove as many losses as possible. But yeah, I don't have the best answer for you right now.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Feel free to stop sharing your screen and we'll move on to the next presentation. Judges, you can fill out your judging forms. While it looks like we have 4 teams left to present, our next team will be Thriso, Team 10.
Hey everyone, and thanks for having us. We are Team Thriso out of the University of Michigan. We're a group of 3 PhD students studying nuclear engineering. We're here today to pitch you our business plan on thorium triso nuclear fuel. So if there's one thing that you take away from this pitch is that one man's trash is another man's treasure, and we'll show you how we apply that iconic quote to nuclear fuel.
So if you haven't heard of triso energy or triso fuel before, it's a fuel that a lot of advanced reactors that are coming to market are using. 2 examples are the high temperature gas reactor and the molten salt cooled reactor, and also the MITRE reactor, which was presented earlier. And the reason that they plan on using it is this inherent containment and accident tolerance qualities that it possesses. So if you look at the schematic in the middle of your screen, in the middle you have your fuel kernel, fuel of fissile material, and then it's surrounded by all these carbon layers. And what those do is those essentially prevent melting and they retain fission products, which is why it's so inherently safe and so advantageous. And the reason we want to combine it with thorium is there's 10 times the amount of accessible reserves of thorium in the US as compared to uranium. And you don't have to enrich it, so you use all of your fuel and you transmutate it to uranium-233, which has more ideal neutronics properties as compared to uranium-235, which is what we use today. It's also a byproduct of a lot of mining processes, so there's a lot of it available that just needs to be sourced. And it's also got a lot of more desirable reactor operation properties, like a higher temperature operation, higher thermal conductivity, higher thermodynamic efficiency, and then also due to its neutronics properties, it has less radioactivity and also overall less waste volume. And so for the market that we've identified for our product, in the private sector, you've got the X-Energy high temperature gas reactor and the Kairos molten chloride fast reactor, which are going to be bought by utilities in the near future when they get licensed by the NRC, and they're all using triso fuel. So we'll be supplying that fuel to the utilities. And then also once the supply chain is established, people are going to be wanting to use triso fuel in their reactors. So new triso fuel based designs are going to need to use this fuel as well. And then the government has also proposed a lot of remote-based microreactors that are using TRISO fuel.
For any good business plan, we need to identify the economic drivers that allow our business to be profitable. So first off, we look at the enhanced fuel utilization that thorium TRISO fuel offers for advanced reactors. If we can get better fuel utilization out of our fuel, then we can have a larger profit margin for our nuclear utilities. If we're looking at the thorium, the cost is extremely low. This is because thorium is discarded as waste in many mining industries. So that's how we relate our previous quote, one man's trash, another man's treasure, is that we're taking a rather worthless byproduct of the mining industry and turning it into clean, carbon-free electricity. And finally, there's a need for a domestic nuclear fuel supply chain. We currently have heavy reliance on imported uranium. So for example, if you look at this table on the right, the United States ranks in the dead last of uranium mine production compared to countries around the world. So here we don't exactly in significant quantities extract our own uranium, but we import that from foreign countries. So if the United States is to meet its climate goals and nuclear is in the picture for that, then we need to ensure that there is future energy independence. When we take a look at the business timeline, ultimately, our business goal is to develop a domestic thorium nuclear fuel supply chain. And this is, again, to reiterate, to reduce energy dependence on foreign nations. Even today, we see that tensions between the West and East are on the rise, and today marks a monumental step in our world timeline. So now more than ever, do we need to motivate ourselves to not depend on Eastern countries for energy production or uranium production. But we can't accomplish that in just one step. We have to start small, and that's by first adding thorium as an additive to your uranium-based fuels, and that's in the more near short term. And then later on in our long-term goals, we would be using thorium to produce that fissile uranium-233 and driving that fission reactors with a new type of fuel. And with that, thank you for the pitch, and we'll open to any questions.
Wonderful, thank you.
Hey, hi, Thomas. You just spoke to it being a one man's trash, another man's treasure. Can you speak a little bit to the process of actually collecting the thorium and then whatever chemical processing you need to do to it to add it to the uranium, and what are the economics associated with that and how you plan to get around that?
Right. So right now, I can't speak on the economics. There is no market for thorium because no one body wants it. That's where we can see an opportunity to take it. And essentially what they have is all of this thorium in the mineral form, thorite, is sitting at these mining sites. And it's estimated from the OECD that there is enough thorium sitting around already extracted to produce energy in nuclear power plants for over a century. So it's already there, and extracting it into the chemical processing and then manufacturing it into fuel is what we are interested in.
Is there a chance they would pay you to take it off their hands?
I would hope so.
Excellent. We'll have to leave it there.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, if you had a quick question, you can jump in if you want.
Sorry if I missed this, but do the reactors need to be modified to use this fuel?
So we have a new fleet of reactors, Gen 4, coming out. They're advanced reactors, and these reactors are planned, or some of these designs are planned to use TRISO-based fuels. So we're enhancing that TRISO fuel with our own additive.
Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Team Disaster Resilient Wind Turbine.
All right, good afternoon. I'll wait a moment here for my colleague Nelson to get our slides up.
Great.
And there we go. Okay, hello. My name is Tanner Clark. Like I mentioned, my colleague is Nelson Fernandez, and we are presenting on behalf of the Green Roof team from Southern Illinois University for our disaster resilient wind turbine design and business proposal. This idea was born from a problem that Nelson and I noticed as we collaborated with other students across the world. We would try and communicate with one student from Puerto Rico. Due to harsh weather months prior, his access to electrical power would be intermittent and added an extra layer of challenge to our communication. We thought, wouldn't it be great if we could enable anyone in the world to access their own electricity, regardless of the reliability of their local electrical grids? From this need to communicate, we formulated a solution for anyone to access electrical energy independent of their electrical grid by utilizing alternative energy. To realize our solution, we've designed a disaster-resilient wind turbine. Our design harnesses enough wind energy to charge a battery, which can then be used to charge small electronics like cell phones. With all the mechanical components constructed from common materials, the manufacturing process is designed for a person to carry out in the days or weeks following a natural disaster, which may render the electrical grid unreliable or inaccessible for months. As you can see from the slide, even though we had some troubles there, that was our first prototype running and operating. This design is best tailored for areas with high wind potential, non-resilient electrical grids, and regions affected by natural disasters. One suitable region is the Caribbean islands like Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands, that experience hurricanes, which can take out the electrical grid for months at a time. However, this product could also have its uses within the Midwest in areas like Illinois, Kentucky, and other states following tornadoes. Using a vertical axis drag type design, shown on the next slide, the turbine is suitable for varying wind directions and speeds and unpredictable turbulence when compared to a horizontal axis wind turbine design. The blades and tower are composed of wood, nails, PVC pipe, and other parts that the person may have on hand. And it's assembled using common hand tools like a hammer and a handsaw. This widens the availability of our design by lowering the cost barrier to the consumer and makes it more accessible to people of varying socioeconomic statuses.
And among those who are in our target audience, we focused on surveying them and finding out what type of materials they would have, what they would look for in terms of cost of the product, the average power duration that they usually lose following a natural disaster. We want this to be primarily used by those in developing areas and not in the most financially stable areas as well. And based on all of our surveys and the sample audience we had, we found that there is a need for small and temporary power generation in these areas. So as long as we can provide the resources and education to help them to understand the design and construction process for the blades and tower, the mechanical side, then we can offer a kit that has all the electrical components to ensure the safety and reliability of the system as a whole. And this would include anything from the wiring to the charge controller to our custom PCB that's able to manage the battery's health and ensures its long-time life as long as the system is up. And this kit ranges from $150 to $200. Try and keep it as low cost as possible. Right now, the bottleneck is the cost of the prefabricated generator, just because from our own experience right now, we haven't been able to get over that hurdle. And the next steps moving forward, we're focused on showing how we're more competitive than prefabricated solar and wind technologies. Our main focus is using common household items. Items that could be destroyed by natural disasters naturally, such as bicycle tires and bicycle frames in general. By taking those apart, you can easily be able to construct the blades or the tower itself. And essentially that's bringing down the carbon footprint that one has by finding ways, innovative ways on using these items over and over again. And in the end, we're focused on reducing waste that naturally occurs. During last summer, Germany had many storms and floods that left quite a bit of waste afterwards. And our next steps right now, we're focused on continuing our feasibility, finding new ways on constructing the tower and the blades, enhancing and optimizing the electrical system so that we can keep the cost down and increase the number of resources available, and just focused on working with focus groups we can now to understand the feedback loop, go through it, and then continue to iterate and be able to make the best product we can. Then we have our team right here on the engineering side.
We'll have to, if you could wrap up, we're just at time now.
Cool. Thank you for your time. We actually did wrap up.
Thank you.
How long on average has it taken a focus group to build one?
Right now, they're able to build one within 6 hours, mainly on the blades and tower side we focused on, so 8 hours.
Longest step in that process is building the tower itself.
It's fine.
Anyway, yeah. Right now we're in the hour scale for production times.
Does your customer look like FEMA or UNICEF or governments, or does it look like when you get to future state, something that you could be sold at like Home Depot in a, a direct to consumer prepare, like,
Nelson, do you want to take
hurricane
that, or do you want me to jump in?
I can. Thank you. That's a great question. FEMA is one of the primary audiences we would like to connect to. But at the end of the day, this is something that the average person can make. So any hardware stores like a Home Depot would be perfect as well. Keeping it as widely accessible as possible.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Tanner and Nelson.
Thank you.
And that was the disaster resilient wind turbine. All right, only 2 presentations left before our judges will retire to deliberate for our award winner. Our penultimate presentation is going to be Team 12, Carbon Busters. Feel free to share your screen when you're ready.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kayla, and we're the Carbon Busters at Purdue. We will be reversing climate change with feedstocks. And here's why. The US has pledged to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, but this has created a significant problem for US bioproducts producers because there are no carbon negative, low-cost feedstocks available for them. And without these feedstocks, they can never achieve net zero. Our solution is that we'll produce carbon negative, low-cost feedstocks to sell to US bioproducts producers. And our feedstocks are sugarcane co-products and byproducts, ethanol, and algae oil.
Hi, I'm Sharon with our answers for the rubric. For technology, our base model is a carbon negative biorefinery, which uses our 3P strategy: piggyback, proven, and premium. Piggyback combines 2 proven technologies, Shell's biorefinery in Brazil and Honeywell's BICRS in the US. Our premium place is Belize, where our feedstock should be up to 100% lower carbon and 40% lower cost. Also, our add-on offers upside potential. You see, we'll reinvest our profits from the base model into proving out our patented algae technology, which should further reduce carbon and cost and in turn, increase profits. For market, we interviewed 50 customers who confirmed that we have zero competition. And the 2021 unmet need was $10 billion, which is 125 times our supply. For economics, our net profit margin should be range between 25 and 57%. For impacts, DE&I is that our feedstocks create jobs, hundreds in the US and 1,250 in Belize for the disadvantaged, including 50% women with equal pay. Our role in the energy transition is our 3-phase expansion plan. Phase 1 is Biorefinery 1 in Belize. Phase 2 is expansion to the other Caribbean states. And phase 3 is expansion to the rest of the world. Our business plan, our metrics for success are profits and impacts. For profits, we estimate a 30% equity IRR, 10 times equity multiple, and 3-year payback. For impacts, we should capture 10 million tons of carbon and contribute to 100% of UN SDGs and Belize NDC targets. Our key resources are: first, we'll use the same technology as Honeywell and Shell. Second, we'll use the same experts as Shell and BP. Third, we've secured all but $3 million. And finally, our technology use is the lowest cost solution for resilience.
Hi, I'm Neha with the bonus focus. Due to our piggyback, our project provides more bang and makes big bucks, meaning our algae oil captures the most carbon and generates the most profit. Firstly, our negative 250 grams of CO2 per gallon of algae oil is the most carbon captured of any biomass. Secondly, our $25 per ton is the highest profit generated. And thirdly, our algae oil feedstock will produce the most carbon negative product of all biofuels. Also, for US taxpayers, no new taxes because the infrastructure policies are in place. And our economics are superior without carbon credits, subsidies, and tax breaks. So, in conclusion, our innovative business model, piggyback technique, and global expansion plan should increase BICRS adoption and global appeal. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
I know you guys said this, but are you growing the algae in some sort of farm type area in Belize? Or sorry, I was confusing that with the sugar cane. So can you talk about the actual growing of the feedstock? Sharon, I think you're on mute.
Yes, ma'am, that's a good question. Yes, all of our feedstocks will be grown in Belize. Sugarcane and algae are natural resources of Belize. So we'll be growing our sugarcane on plantations and our algae in open air ponds.
Open air ponds. And are there any negative environmental effects with the water with specifically growing and exponentially growing algae?
No, ma'am, because our ponds will be segregated from all the water tributaries around Belize. And we already have an environmental impact assessment approved and the environmental compliance permit awarded for the project.
I'm assuming you're doing the same on the sugarcane and not kind of making sure you're adding to deforestation and things like that.
Yes, actually Belize has 2 million acres of land available for agriculture, of which they only use 300,000. So there's 1.7 million acres that we could use before we get to deforestation.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you for that presentation. We'll have to leave it there. Thanks again, Team Carbon Busters. Okay, last but not least, while our judges are filling out their scoring form, I want to introduce our last presentation of the day. That is affordable housing community energy storage. When you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian. Here we go. Okay. So our business plan is for affordable housing community energy storage. Our goal is to improve energy equity by giving urban low-income communities access to affordable and reliable renewable energy. Grid energy storage can be paired with the booming renewable wind and solar industries. The global total available market for grid energy storage is estimated in the trillions of dollars by 2050. If we target the 7.3 million US affordable housing units, that's roughly a $20 billion serviceable available market. The Chicago affordable housing segment alone constitutes a $250 million targeted initial market. The first customer problem we will address is the disproportionate energy burden at the lowest 20% income bracket, who spend about 10% of their salary on their energy bills, while the national median is 3%. This population is disproportionately Native American, Black, and Hispanic minorities. The second customer problem we will address is the fact that low-income houses are hit longer and harder by grid electricity outage, which has been witnessed in the numerous blackout disasters over the last couple of years in the US. Affordable housing energy security is often neglected because current fuel-based generators and lithium-ion storage solutions are too expensive, have health and/or safety concerns, and have resource allocation challenges. In contrast, the flow battery technology being developed by our startup, Flux 12, has improved energy density, safety, and reliability and cost, which will enable low-income urban applications. These flow batteries can be implemented as standalone grid-connected systems to take advantage of electricity markets, such as the nightly negative electricity prices in Illinois during excess wind generation. They can also be integrated with existing housing solar PV generation to enhance revenue streams. Due to low-cost materials and simplified engineering, Flux 12 flow batteries can be produced at roughly a quarter the cost of lithium-ion technologies at long duration, enabling lower customer pricing and promoting increased energy storage market penetration. As are most renewable energy technologies, these flow systems are quite capital intensive, but we discovered that low-income housing managers have multiple housing and renewable energy investments tax credits they can leverage that can cover over 100% of capital cost. Even if these tax credits were all to disappear, as shown in this figure, the Flux 12 flow battery will economically pay for itself by taking advantage of dynamic electricity markets and will be profitable investments with reliability evaluation. We believe our business model will be a win for all stakeholders. Power producers will have a more flexible market to sell electricity in. Utilities can reliably integrate more renewable energy capacity. and low-income consumers can reduce their energy burdens and have reliable access to power. Our business model is in line with the Administrative Justice 40 initiative to not only increase US renewable energy penetration, but to reach the minority populations that have been left out of the clean energy transition to date. Our business goal will be to deploy 1 gigawatt-hour of Flux 12 flow battery storage with Chicago affordable housing managers in the first few years of operations, which would generate nearly $50 million of revenue. Social success will be determined by the reduction in customer energy burdens. To realize this ambitious business model, we will need the help of affordable housing and utility deployment partners, as well as government and investor commercialization partners. Together, we can achieve this equitable vision that is supported by strong technology, finances, and economics. And this is our team. So thank you for your time and open it up to any questions you may have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patrick. Right on time.
Patrick, has this battery technology been deployed anywhere? And if not, what are the steps that your team needs to take to de-risk the technology in order to get partnerships?
Yeah, great question. So this is, I don't know if you can see my screen, but this is kind of the stage we're at right now. So this is a lab scale prototype we are at the stage at right now. And so we have screened over 100 different chemistries, and we are in the kilowatt scale prototyping step right now, which is about the size of a refrigerator. And we are applying to numerous DOE, STTR, SBIR type grants to help get this to the next stage of deployment.
Patrick, I love your focus on environmental justice. I'm curious, as you've gone through the chemistry screening, have you thought through how that chemistry might impact communities that have traditionally been impacted by other chemical plants and the like?
Mm-hmm. So our chemistry is actually, we're all organic chemists. And so our molecules are organic based molecules, so we can avoid the international supply chains for lithium, cobalt. And what's also great about this is that these chemicals can be produced domestically. So we can actually create more sustainable clean energy jobs in the US with this chemistry.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks for that presentation. Appreciate it. All right, that wraps up our 13 presentations. I hope folks enjoyed them. So thank you to everyone who presented today. Judges, remember to fill out your scoring forms and then feel free to head over to that deliberation Zoom with Allie. Now, while the judges are away determining our winner for the prize award today, I'm going to be joined by my colleague, Paul Seidler, who's the managing director at Evergreen Climate Innovations and the person that runs our investment program. We're going to be talking through some of the factors you may want to consider when it comes to fundraising, growing a company, success factors, things like that. Paul, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Hey, great to see you.
Likewise, likewise. Long time no see. All right, starting things off. Some of the companies that are folks here are very early stage, and some are just starting off and may not actually even be companies yet. So, what general advice do you have for folks that are very early stage? Maybe they're just starting a company, they're thinking about starting a company. What would you tell them?
Sure. First of all, congrats to all the presenting teams. Great presentations, great work. Really, really interesting stuff. I know I'm sitting here just to entertain you while the judges deliberate, and so you're probably anxious to hear how the results go. And I'm sorry to be the one in between you and the goal line here, but hopefully you'll get something worthwhile out of this conversation. So, Ian, to answer your question, what should these student teams think about? I would say first and foremost, if you are in the early stages of launching a company, or you're trying to decide if you should launch a company, I would say think long and hard about whether you want to do this. Entrepreneurship, when it comes to building a venture-backed, scalable company, it's a big deal, and really you're not. You're dedicating your life to this. Ask yourself, why are you doing this? And if the answer to why you want to do this is because you want to be your own boss, that's a terrible reason to do it, and you shouldn't do it, okay? If you want to be your own boss, open a restaurant, start a consulting business. There are a lot of different ways to sort of launch like what's called a lifestyle business, where you don't need to raise tons of venture capital and build something into a huge business. But the reason why you should do this, if you really are committed to doing it, is because you have the ability or the technology or the way to solve a really big problem or tackle a really big opportunity. You don't think anyone else has that ability. And it's something that if you don't do it, it's going to eat away at you at night and you're not going to be able to sleep. So I would say take a step back and ask yourself those questions before you go and actually start one of these companies and go out looking for investors.
Thanks, Paul. So, Paul, you talk to a number of companies every week. They're different startups in the climate tech space. How do you think about evaluating those companies sort of at a first order? What's important?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's sort of like the basics, the standard startup evaluation of like technology, team, market, financials. So, you know, on the market side, is this a huge market opportunity? How difficult will it be to penetrate this market? On the technology side, how unique is the technology? What is the unique competitive advantage? Is the team capable? Maybe the team's not capable of running a huge business. Is the team capable of commercializing the technology and getting market traction with early customers? These are sort of the standard things that any early stage venture investor is going to look at. But then there are also things that unique investors will take into consideration. For us, we're also very focused on climate impact. So we're going to assess the potential impact that this technology or solution can bring to the world. To us, we fundamentally believe that climate impact or environmental impact at scale goes hand in hand with the business's ability to scale. So those underlying business fundamentals, they kind of go hand in hand, meaning you could have an incredible technology that's capable of incredible things that at the unit level could make a huge impact. But if the business does not have the potential to really scale and earn large returns for investors and save a lot of money for customers, then really there's not going to be that huge impact at scale.
Thanks for that. Now, when it comes to fundraising, I know that's often seen as sort of a black box for folks. You know, what would you say that investors look for in a business, you know, beyond evaluating those factors you mentioned?
Yeah, so I mean, digging in a little more on what we were just talking about. I'll give you a few tips. I guess first, it's you know, the value prop. An investor wants to see a killer value proposition, a no-brainer value proposition. This is your unfair advantage, and you need to really clearly articulate that unfair advantage. I mean, let's take a step back and think about like what that means. So I don't know, when were shoes invented? Whenever shoes were invented, this was a new technology, all right? And let's pretend like when shoes were invented, there was an inventor walking around trying to raise money from investors to launch this new technology. The value proposition was like, I mean, you're going to protect your feet. People all over the world will be more productive. They will be able to do a lot more. They will be able to avoid injuries, be on their feet for longer periods of time, get a lot more done. This is going to result in huge productivity gains, and businesses all over the world will make a lot more money. So like, think about like the killer value proposition. Shoes are, I mean, that's a great value proposition. Can't deny that, but extrapolate that to what you're trying to solve. Let's get a little more detailed on financials. So every investor is going to see financials. When you're a really early stage company, every investor knows that the financials you're presenting are guaranteed to be wrong. That's just a fact, right? Your 5-year hockey stick projection, they're wrong. I mean, they could be wrong in that they're underestimating how wildly successful you are. Usually that's not the case. Usually it's the other way around, but don't worry too much about the long-term, the 5-year, 10-year forecast of those financials. Worry a lot more as a very early stage company on the unit economics. And so what do I mean by the unit economics? I mean, what price can you extract in the market minus what are the costs of goods sold, which leaves you with the gross margin. So you could have venture capital investors are less worried about operating income, meaning like your company can lose money for years and years and years, but if the company is growing based on very strong unit economics, high margin revenue, because you are extracting a lot, or you're creating a lot of value in the market and you're capturing a significant share of that value, that's what excites a venture investor. They don't care that much about like, if you're going to lose a lot of money in years 2, 3, 4. If you're scaling a big business with really strong unit economics, that's exciting. So I'll pause there, and those are sort of a couple of things that I think are worth thinking about. Also, know your investor. I mean, what is this investor's interests? Some investors are more motivated by impact. Some are more motivated by returns. Some investors are looking for a 10x return in 3 years. Some might have a longer time horizon. Do your diligence on the investors before you pitch them, and try to tailor your pitch to their interests.
Excellent. You were already starting to go there with the types of investors that are out there, but I think a lot of folks think about venture capital as the place to be in terms of raising dollars for a startup. But is venture capital the only way for startups to grow? And if not, like how, what should they be pursuing or think about pursuing, and how should they know which tool is right for them?
Yeah, so no, venture capital investors are not the only source of funding. You could kind of largely break down most funding as either being, at least most funding is either being dilutive or non-dilutive, and dilutive would be venture capital, but also at the earlier stages, friends and family and angel investors. An important key distinction between angel investors and VCs is whose money they're investing. So angels are typically investing their own money, whereas VCs are investing other people's money, specifically their LPs or limited partners. So VCs are taking capital from LPs, capital allocators, and they are looking to earn a very strong competitive return for those investors over a certain period of time. They're generally motivated by those returns because the better they do for their investors, the better they do personally. Angels, they're investing their own money, and that's important to know. And but they might be motivated by their own personal interests. Maybe they are successful entrepreneurs themselves, and it's like a retirement project. Maybe they want to be hands-on mentors. So again, think about what motivates each of these mentors. Moving to non-dilutive funding, there's a lot out there that you need to be going after. There's grant funding from government agencies. There are competitions, prizes, etc. There's also non-dilutive. Debt can be non-dilutive if you're able to pay it back. It's very, very hard to secure debt financing at the earliest stages. You usually need some sort of something else on your balance sheet that a creditor can secure the loan against. So that's unlikely unless there's some sort of alternative debt program out there that you can tap into. Another piece of advice from my perspective is that a lot of entrepreneurs might get overly distracted, I should say, by non-dilutive funding. So yes, non-dilutive funding is great, but it's not, I don't think that if you can get all the non-dilutive funding you can to finance your company's development, I don't think that's actually better than a nice balance between non-dilutive and dilutive. And the reason is that oftentimes I've seen entrepreneurs chase grant funding, meaning like they see something that their technology can do, but it's maybe not the right application or the best use case of their technology, and they might chase it because it's non-dilutive. Another thing is like having dilutive funding on your cap table can be a good thing in that you have other people with skin in the game. You take money from an investor, they want to see you win, and they're going to help you beyond just the money that they're providing. And so that can be very powerful. So I would say try to To the extent you can, finance your company with a blend of dilutive and non-dilutive funding. There's also project finance, which is sort of at a later stage, a way to fund your company's growth in a way that is less dilutive than equity. This could be like financing systems that then pay the investor back through the revenue that system or plant generates. I'll stop there, but those are a few different forms. Ian, did I miss anything? You can help me out.
Sounds good. I think that's a pretty good list. And I have a bunch of other questions to ask Paul, but if other folks have questions they want to lob in, feel free to put them in the chat too, and we can get to those as well. You mentioned a bunch of different financial resources, but like, are there other resources out there that that exist to help folks in the climate tech space sort of beyond money?
Yeah, and this is the great thing is that there's more and more than there's more than ever. There's quite a bit today, and so obviously at universities there's all sorts of incubators and accelerators and programs. Tap into all these programs. Hustle your butt off to take advantage of them. There are some great programs at national labs to help commercialize technology. There's the IN2 program at NREL. It's funded by Wells Fargo. It's been a great program for several years now. They provide, I think, $250,000 of non-dilutive funding to develop your technology in partnership with NREL. There's the third derivative program that's run out of RMI. Ian, chime in here. What are some
I think
others?
those are good. You know, there's a lot of accelerator programs out there. There's competitions. When it comes to engaging with on campus, where you should plug into can depend on your campus. If you have an entrepreneurship center, that's a good place to start. Sometimes a lot of the resources will be in the tech transfer office, and then other times they'll be over at business school. And then if you're fortunate enough to have a specific vertical like an energy center, you could go there as well. Or if there's a specialty group on a specific technology at your campus, they'll probably be plugged in there as well. One other plug I want to make, we're in the process of assembling a resource guide that sort of lists all these different programs, accelerator programs, events, prize events, awards, all these different things that can be relevant for entrepreneurs in the climate tech space. That'll be coming out in a few months. So stay engaged on our newsletter if you're interested in learning more about that. That's really intended to be a tool to keep track of all the different opportunities that are out there. So feel free to put questions in the chat if you have them. But Paul, I want to change gears a little bit and talk a little bit about some of our work. Could you talk about how Evergreen's fund and model works and how that differs from like a traditional venture capitalist venture?
Yeah, so we have a pretty unique investment model. We describe our investment fund as a 501 VC, which is exactly what it sounds like, basically a mashup of a VC fund structured as a 501c3 nonprofit. Meaning we don't have investors in our fund, we have donors. Our fund is fully capitalized with philanthropic dollars. The reason we are structured this way is very intentional. It allows us to bear a little more risk in the market so that we can invest in promising early stage climate tech startups that otherwise might be overlooked or passed on by investors. We don't fault traditional private investors for passing on a lot of these startups because they are very high risk. We get that. And so this structure allows us to come on board and sometimes maybe absorb a couple of years on the front end of R&D when companies are going to be in the lab, really help de-risk our portfolio companies to the point that larger institutional investors are ready to come on board with bigger checks. And our fund is structured as a revolving evergreen fund. So instead of taking our returns and sending them back to the investors, we get returns from liquidity events when companies get acquired, and we recycle those dollars back into our fund and redeploy them. So our vision is that if we make enough of the right investments over enough time, then the fund can self-sustain and grow on its own. We've made 38 investments over the last 7 years or so. Ian, anything you want to add to that?
I think that's a good synopsis. Thank you. All right, we've got a question coming in on the chat from Alpha Nur. So they're asking, when folks, investors from the nuclear industry, I think folks are interested in nuclear industry startups, what are the typical concerns that you have which are not sufficiently addressed by those startups?
Just broadly nuclear, I mean, if we're talking
Yeah.
like next gen fission, I would say the biggest concern for me would be cost. I mean, we don't know how to build nuclear reactors cost effectively. And so is there some sort of new innovation that allows for that cost to be addressed? I think fusion is certainly very promising, but we're quite a bit more than a decade off for that dream to be realized. But I mean, zero carbon, effectively baseload power, low cost is critical. So I think that if there's a way to bring next gen nuclear online, then that would be great, starting with cost.
Agreed. And I think from those the Q&A that you had with the judges, they sort of referred to a couple of things relating to costs, permitting, which drives costs, and then waste disposal are issues that sometimes pop up as well. All right, so I think we have Ali returned. Ali, do you have some good news for us from the judges?
Hey everyone, yes, I have some very good news. So I just got back from the judging deliberation room, and I'm so excited to announce the EnergyTech Up Explore the Great Lakes regional winner. So the winner will win $2,500. They'll have the opportunity to refine their pitch over the next month and advance to nationals. So the winner is Team Natrion. And we also have some additional semi-finalists. So in the solar category, we have Team Thermo Elephant Group, congratulations. Nuclear, we have Alpha Nur. In the fossil energy and carbon management category, Team Carbon Busters is a semi-finalist. And in buildings, we have affordable housing. So thank you all so much. And we also have one final, just sort of most creative, most innovative award, and that is to the Team Disaster Resilient Wind Turbine. So congratulations to everyone. I wish we could give more awards, but it was so exciting to hear all of your pitches. So congratulations again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ali, and congratulations to everyone there, especially to Natrion for their first prize, but for all of the semifinalists, as well as everyone who presented. Also, I was so excited to get to the news that Ali was bringing that I don't think I had a chance to thank Paul for his comments. I just left him hanging. So Paul, thank you for providing your perspective and answering questions there as well. So I think that is the conclusion of our competition. I will say congratulations to all those semifinalists and good luck at the event coming up in March. Before we do go, thank you again for attending. Speaking of upcoming activities and dates, I wanted to note that Evergreen has a couple of opportunities related for entrepreneurship support efforts that you can learn more about on our website at evergreeninno.org/opportunities. That's the Natural Gas Multicultural Innovator Award and the US Bank Clean Tech Inclusion Award. That's all we have for today. Thanks everyone for attending. Thank you for presenters. Thank you to the judges for participating. And we look forward to seeing everyone real soon. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Ian. Congratulations to all the students. Well done.
Thanks so much, everyone. Congrats.
Bye, everyone.